In just 8 hours, the U.S. Navy sank or crippled half of Iran's navy and barely broke a sweat. That sounds like clickbait, but it actually happened. It's the true story of Operation Praying Mantis, the largest surface naval battle the U.S. had fought since World War II, and one of the most lopsided victories in modern history. So how did this clash happen? To understand it, you have to rewind to the late 1980s. The Iran-Iraq War had been raging for almost 8 years. Neither side was winning decisively, and both were getting desperate. Iran, in particular, had turned to mining the Persian Gulf and attacking oil tankers in an effort to strangle Iraq's economy, and by extension, pressure the world into backing off its support for Saddam Hussein. The U.S. wasn't directly at war with Iran, but America's Navy had been running escort missions in the Gulf to protect shipping lanes and oil traffic. That's when disaster struck. On April 14, 1988, the USS Samuel B. a guided missile frigate, was on patrol in the Gulf when it hit an Iranian mine. The explosion tore a massive hole in the hull, ruptured fuel tanks, and nearly broke the ship in two. 10 sailors were injured, and for a moment it looked like the Roberts might go under. But thanks to some of the most heroic damage control in Navy history, the crew kept the ship afloat. The message to Washington was clear. Iran wasn't just posturing, it was escalating, and the U.S. needed to respond. 4 days later, Operation Praying Mantis was launched. The objective was straightforward: punish Iran, cripple its ability to menace the Gulf, and send a message so loud that no one would misinterpret it. The U.S. task force moved in. First, they targeted 2 Iranian oil platforms that were being used as forward operating bases. Marines and surface ships unleashed gunfire, destroying equipment and silencing the platforms. That was just the opening round. Iran, furious, scrambled its navy to strike back. That's when the real battle began. The first major clash came with the Iranian frigate Sahand. Armed with surface-to-air missiles, anti-ship weapons, and naval guns, it steamed straight toward U.S. forces. But the Americans had been preparing for this. U.S. A-6 intruder attack aircraft locked in, dropping bombs and unleashing Harpoon missiles. Guided missile destroyers joined in with their own salvos. Within minutes, the Sahand was burning from bow to stern. Its fuel and ammunition ignited in a chain reaction of explosions so fierce that crew members had no chance of saving it. The Sahand went down in flames, one of the most dramatic sinkings since World War II. But Iran wasn't done. Another frigate, the Sabalan, moved in to challenge the Americans. It fired on U.S. aircraft and got immediate payback. A bomb dropped directly into its forward deck, detonating deep inside the ship. The Sabalan was left crippled, powerless, and on fire. The Americans had it dead to rights. One more strike, and it would have been on the bottom of the Gulf. And here's where I want to pause and ask you something. If you're in command, what do? Do you sink the Sabalan and finish the job, or do you leave it alive as a warning? The U.S. commanders chose restraint. They pulled back, letting the Iranian frigate limp home. Some argue it was the smarter move, a show of dominance without overcommitting. Others say it was a mistake not to end the threat permanently. What do you think? Meanwhile, the smaller clashes were just as decisive. Iranian gunboats tried to swarm U.S. ships. Bad idea. American destroyers opened up with naval gunfire and missiles, sinking or crippling several smaller craft. By the end of the day, Iran's navy wasn't just beaten, it was humiliated. Think about that for a second. In just 8 hours, the U.S. Navy had destroyed 1 frigate, crippled another, demolished oil platforms, and sunk or damaged multiple smaller vessels. And they did it without losing a single ship. The only American casualty was the damage that had already been done to the Samuel B. before the operation even began. The aftermath was immediate. Iran pulled its navy back, avoiding further direct clashes with U.S. forces. The balance of power in the Persian Gulf shifted decisively. For years afterward, Operation Praying Mantis served as a textbook example of overwhelming force applied with surgical precision. But it's also worth noting what it meant in the bigger picture. This wasn't just a military engagement, it was a political message. Iran had been testing the waters with mines and harassment. The U.S. responded by proving it could wipe out their navy in less than a workday. That's deterrence in its purest form. And it worked. After April 18, 1988, Iran didn't try another major naval confrontation with the United States. The risks were too obvious. Today, when people look back at Operation Praying Mantis, they see one of the clearest examples of naval dominance in the late Cold War era. It showed not only the firepower of the U.S. fleet, but also the training, coordination, and technology that allowed it to crush an opponent so completely, so quickly, and with so few losses. So here's the big takeaway. One mine strike nearly sank a frigate, but the retaliation shattered a navy. And it happened so fast that by the end of the day, Iran was left wondering if it even had a navy anymore. Operation Praying Mantis didn't just punish Iran. It redefined the balance of power in the Gulf for decades.